Within 1 month of each other, at the end of 2024, Disney released two sequels to two of their most financially successful films of the previous decade. And these would of course be Moana 2 and Mufasa, the Lion King. But the production around these two movies couldn't have been any more different, as Mufasa was always intended to be a big budget release meant to hopefully duplicate the Lion King remake's billion-dollar success, while Moana 2 was originally a TV show that was repurposed into a film, both to fill a time slot, and because Disney finally seemed to realize that theatrical releases do indeed make more money than stuff released straight to streaming. And as a result, many were left disappointed with Moana 2, since they felt it could have been a lot better, while Mufasa suffered from the same problems as any other Disney live-action remake. And today, I'd like to go over how both these movies perfectly demonstrate Disney's flawed mindset when it comes to their output. And there will be minor spoilers for both movies ahead. So in case you haven't seen either of them yet and don't want anything ruined, you might want to come back to this video another day. Alright, so to cut right to the chase, the biggest problem with these two films is that Mufasa, the Lion King, has all the components that Moana 2 should have had. An original story that's different from the original, a director with a good track record, songs provided by Lin-Manuel Miranda, and an actual villain who stays the bad guy the whole time, as well as gets his own villain song. I mean, when you really look at it, this movie has got everything that people have been begging for Disney to put back into their animated output for years. But instead of giving it to their audience in an animated sequel that people actually wanted, they instead put it into a live-action remake absolutely nobody asked for. And as a result, all of those otherwise great elements end up falling flat on a film made solely in a desperate attempt by Disney to print money. In other words, instead of making one movie, specifically Moana 2, and putting in the effort to make it the best Disney film it could be, they opted to make two sequels to capitalize on the original's success, and then put all of the effort into the wrong one. And both movies ended up suffering as a consequence. Now, I know I said in my video on Moana 2, which you can find a link in the description to, that I was overall happy with it except for the character of Matagni. And that still holds completely true. But at the same time, I will admit it could have been better, especially if it had the elements that were instead used in Mufasa. I even argued in the aforementioned video that the movie would have been better off with a real villain, and that they should have gotten Lin-Manuel Miranda to return instead of replacing him with substitutes. But it seems that he was too busy working on the Lion King prequel instead, as well as the Little Mermaid live-action remake to do Wish either, since, as most have pointed out, the score was most definitely influenced by Miranda's style. Now, the thing is, Lin-Manuel Miranda does have the right to choose whatever projects he wants to work on. Being one of the best songwriters of his day, that's a privilege he's most definitely earned. But it's not animated movies like Wish or Moana 2 that are beneath him like some would argue. It's these live-action remakes he has been working on. Now, I've made it no secret that I absolutely loathe Disney's live-action remakes. I even dedicated an entire video to that, which you can also find a link in the description too. But even if I didn't, I'd still make that same argument. Because if you notice, the two animated movies that Lin-Manuel Miranda were involved in were among the most beloved, popular, and successful animated movies of their day, while the live-action remakes he was a part of didn't do so well. And that's because the animated movies were both original stories that happened to be very well told. They were made from a place of artistic integrity, and that's what made them so successful. But the live-action remakes, on the other hand, were made solely to make Disney money, and artistic-wise don't do anything except be an insult to the animated masterpieces they're remaking. So as I just said, they honestly don't deserve somebody as talented as Lin-Manuel Miranda working on them, and his contributions aren't enough to mask what these movies truly are. What I'm trying to say here is, Disney put more effort into Mufasa because they thought it could make more money than Moana 2, and that was the only reason it was made. Nobody wanted a prequel to a movie that was infamous for not even letting its characters emote properly. While on the flip side, many had said they wanted a sequel to Moana for years, but instead of giving it the time and attention it needed, they simply rushed it out, which might have worked in the short term, but could come back to bite them in the long run, especially since Mufasa, the Lion King, clearly didn't do as well as they had hoped. And honestly, how Disney treated both these movies is very indicative of a problem with the movie industry as a whole. Disney is afraid of animation. The company that was founded on animation and whose creator dedicated his entire life to innovating and proving its worth as an art form, has come to be ashamed of making animated films. And this is particularly evident in how both live-action Lion King films are treated, because simply put, they are not live-action films. They are entirely realistic CGI, which is animated. Technically speaking, 2019's The Lion King is no different from the likes of Moana. And yet, Disney was desperate to market it as a live-action film because they believe audiences have more respect for live action than they do for animation. And the sad part is, that is completely true to an extent. Many don't give animation any respect simply because they believe it's, quote, only for kids, and will immediately respect something more if it's in live action. Or at the very least, when the animation goes out of its way to hide that it's animation. Hence the general reaction to the Lion King remake. And I might not be the first to say it, but a mentality like that is totally backwards. And anybody who genuinely feels that way needs to completely reevaluate how they see movies. I'm sorry. Because a live-action movie is simply recording actors playing out scenes and editing them together. With animation, and especially traditional animation, everything is designed and created by people. All the characters, the backgrounds, even the design of such trivial things as water, smoke, and the sky all have to be drawn. And moreover, it's usually done in an overly artistic way. In other words, animation on a purely logical scale is way more artistic by nature than live action is. Now, obviously, that's not to take away from live-action media, as it can be just as artistic in the hands of the right director. But the point is that there is no way to argue that animation isn't art. Again, especially 2D is literally a drawing come to life. How can a movie possibly get more artistic than that? But by audiences flocking to these animated classics being retold in either live action or uninspired CGI, it implies that animation is somehow inferior, and that's just not true. So this notion Disney seems to have about live action, or more accurately, realistic CGI posing as live action, is somehow superior to artistic animation, has only come about because that's what the audience has told them. And it's about time that all of this stop. I mean, look at this. Can you seriously look me in the eye and tell me that anybody would want to watch this over this? Can't people just grow up and admit that just because something is made with kids in mind, that doesn't automatically mean it's bad and actually has merit? What I'm trying to say here is, Disney's live-action remakes have been doing harm to the company for years, and the audience validating the fact that they will watch these movies, more so than ones actually made with artistic integrity, could end up leading to only one outcome, which is making a prequel to a film nobody wanted and trying to give the audience everything they've been clamoring for, while just shoving out what should be their priority with way less effort, and for both of them to leave many disappointed. And ironically enough, Moana 2 not only made more money, but also got slightly better reviews at that. And had they just put all their effort into Moana 2 and actually gave the audience what they wanted instead of trying to put it into Mufasa instead, it could have done even better. To put it simply, these soulless live-action remakes have got to stop before they end up causing even more damage. And Disney has got to stop being ashamed of their animated output and start giving it the care and artistic value that they used to. There is still an audience for that, and they're a lot more loyal than those who really believe live action is an acceptable substitute for animation. Okay, that's everything I had to say on that. And sorry if this video seemed a little all over the place, but I had a lot I wanted to get off my chest. But either way, now I'd like to hear what you guys think. Do you believe that Disney's live-action remakes are nothing but a liability to Disney at this point, and that they should go back to focusing a lot more on their animated output? And that the dynamic between Moana 2 and Mufasa the Lion King only proves that? Or do you believe I'm completely wrong about everything I went over? Please feel free to let me know in the comments below. And as I always say, you do not have to agree with anything I said in this video if you don't want to. You are entitled to your own opinion and can absolutely love Disney's live-action remakes, and I nor anybody else can tell you you're wrong. And thank you all for watching. I very much appreciate it. And I hope to see you all next time.